I met James. He came and visited me today on the way back from somewhere else. I had a little bit more footage, but for some reason I must have had my hand over the speaker of my iPad and it didn't pick it up. It was a bit of footage with, I think it was with Marilyn on it. So sorry, Marilyn, the very end of you got cut off. But I've got 51 minutes here. I had to cut a few minutes off because I put my hand over the speaker on my iPad. But anyway, it was a great day. James talked to me, he talked to Amy, and he talked to Marilyn. So anyway, this is part of our day together. Thank you very much for meeting me, James. Hey, look everybody, look who I'm with. I'm here with James. James has popped off at my house, haven't you, James? Yeah. And on his way, you've been helping someone.
Yeah, doing a rescue mission. Got them a job and accommodation and a happier life than they had, shall we say.
That's good. And then you're going back up to Norfolk?
Yeah, gonna probably later this week, gonna be helping out. That reminds me, I must ring and find out a bit later on. But yeah, it's all systems go this week. And
Floss likes, yeah, look at her, she's a little traitor. I've lost the dog. Yeah, look at you, looking at me. You're sitting on James's lap. Anyway, we'll do a few more videos to add to this, because obviously James just popped in. It's good to have what do you call it? A history of us, like, yeah. But yeah, that's the beginning little video. I'm still here with James. I just was pointing out something to him that I'd watched this video and it was about Blade Runners, and basically it was saying that Harrison Ford, because Gaff kept turning up, and Gaff had seen his memory. So why would he have seen his memory if he was not a cyborg like the people he's trying to kill? So basically, I'd never thought of Harrison Ford as being one of them. But me and James were talking, so I thought it was a good point to put the camera back on. But
you never know with all these, considering how many thousands and thousands of actors and actresses there are, why is it the same ones are getting all the key parts in all the big blockbuster films?
I did just say that. I was looking at my daughter's, these are what my daughter uses to train on. There's 6 of them, right? So there's 3 actors playing 2 parts. It's because they're always playing other parts. As I was saying, I saw Brad Pitt on this thing and I was thinking, I can't, Floss, stop moaning. I couldn't even say, you know, I thought, well, I've seen you play other people. Who are you? You know, it's questioned everything for me. And I was just saying to James that we get OBEs, MBEs, it goes up to a KGB. They cannot be accolades like we thought they were. You know, they're like military accolades.
There seems to be some ritual element to it.
I mean, Tom Hanks, I used to think he was brilliant. I really favoured I just thought, what a brilliant actor. I said, he's so good, he could play the president. He's that good. But now, no way, I don't want anything to do with Tom Hanks.
It's like, now it explains why he's managed to get so many key parts in films, because the whole mindset seems to be narcissistic. Whatever topic you look at, say if you take the religion, there's enough to lure you in, just the same way a narcissist acts. It's cancerous as well in its nature, and it's greedy. So I think whether it be a secret society or whatever it is, they're always fearful of each other, stabbing each other in the back and humiliating each other. I think that's why you had the Mark Zuckerberg on trial for Facebook misdemeanors in a kangaroo court. They just like to embarrass each other.
I think he's a woman, by the way. I was just saying, my dog is going mad down there.
Data from Star Trek.
She's going mad.
That's a robot.
What are you doing?
Elon Musk. I'm sure they're robots.
I can't stand that bloke.
They don't look real.
No, they don't, because they're not, because they're computer programs.
The look in the eyes on Zuckerberg as well looks demonic.
I think he's a girl. If you take away this section of his head, just above his eyes, it totally changes this part of the face. It looks like a girl. But anyway, 1 second, I've got to stop the video.
A lot of this is, well, they are, as the name suggests, they're programming. When we talk about our formative years, and you think what you do with a disk when you put into a computer, it has to be formatted. So that's the programming on us to condition us in a certain way. It seems to be a slight distortion the whole time to dis-ease us.
But it is, because you know, like when you thought the sun was 93 million miles away, you looked up and you thought, God, that's 90. But now you think it's only so many miles away, maybe 5, well, I think it's 9.3 miles away, and it looks that close. But before it looked like it was 93 million miles away, so that's how your mind...
What actually, is it even there? Is it a solid thing? Is it plasma? Is it a frequency? Is it a projection onto the sky? Are we a projection from somewhere else into a physical body? And we're just...
I don't know, I've looked at those high altitude balloon flights. The sun actually is in the black, right? But when you're in an aeroplane, you know you're much closer to it. But when you're up there in this high altitude balloon at say 15 miles up, you look like you're quite close to the sun.
Yeah.
And the sun is not right up there, you're level with the sun.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, interestingly, if you view a plane from a perspective, it looks to rise and set. Same as the sun or the moon will do across the sky. But if the sun was actually setting, well, why isn't there a moment when the entire underside, all the cloud is illuminated? Because that light will go in a straight line. It can illuminate the sides of a cloud and the upper surfaces, but it's the underside.
I think that we don't understand the dimension it's in. Loads of people say the sun's in another dimension, the fourth dimension, and we're seeing it in the third dimension. And then that would make sense that it's like, if you could imagine, it's here and it's there at the same time, and it's going here, there, here, there, here, there, sort of thing.
It could be lenses.
But I've seen on those high altitude, when they get to 15 miles up, 16 miles, like they're almost level with the sun. It is not that far away.
No, it's not. I think.
And then think of the small corridor of life that we're living in.
There's something else with this whole...
It's not thousands of miles. It's like, if you were up at the sun, it'd be freezing up there. So you can only live down here probably up for about half a mile. That's it. We live in a half a mile corridor and everything's so perfect. Like, we're summer and yes, things are warmer. But it only has to change a little bit out there and our weather's completely changed.
What's your experience of flying?
What do you mean by that?
Because, well, bearing in mind of what destroyed the future of airship travel was the R-33, the R-101, and obviously the Hindenburg, which happened to have a reporter there to film the whole thing suddenly bursting into flames. If you're on an airship, and it would be like a luxurious, leisurely path, you're sitting under a huge balloon, your attention is either going to be, because you're travelling much slower, your attention is focused outwards or downwards.
Saying about flying, yeah.
So if you're on an airship and you're travelling at a far more leisurely pace where you're sipping your champagne, as it were, that's the impression I get of it, you'd be looking out the window. You can only focus on directly what you can see ahead or below. But you notice also with commercial flights, they have flight paths. So what areas of land do we never see?
I do think their flying is in an area and there could be more land on the other side, but they never take us there.
But this whole thing with airships, they've got helium. They could have a very safe way to travel. There's still the Zeppelin company in Germany.
I've changed my mind about all that, James. You know Schuberger? His name was Schuberger. It wasn't German. He was... I think he might have...
I know the one you mean, with the vortex.
Yeah, and he's...
Walter Schuberger, was it?
He was around at the same time as Hitler. Hitler wanted him, but he didn't want to work with him. But he was looking at birds and how birds flew, and he made those engines, which we see on the aeroplanes now. They're not engines, are they? They're just fans.
Suggest airplanes, and it's BP delivering compressed air. It's BP air. It's not BP aircraft fuel. I mean, you think...
What it is that he understood. So those things are compressing, and he'd learnt all that from birds. And you're like, what? From a bird? And it's like, now watching Josh Stone and that, and obviously talking, the birds are just charging themselves up on the wires and on the things. They're only stopping to charge themselves up before they fly again.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience.
So birds fly like those compressed engines in the plane, and when it goes shh, 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 it's like a 4D flying going on now with those new ones, with the Airbuses.
I can say from personal experience of having two, I think there were 25 or 30,000 litre tanks sitting behind me on a trailer. I was on the quayside at the docks. I'd been parked for about 2 minutes. I thought a truck had run into the back of the trailer because the liquid suddenly moved. Now, you look at 757, the consumption of what they're telling you at takeoff, all that.
Thank you,
all that
James.
fill would roll back. That
Thank
plane
you,
would never get
James.
off the ground.
On Unscrambled somewhere, I used a lorry driver. He said I could use it because it was the same thing. He had to drive really, really slowly, and he put his brakes on, and then it went doing. It's like a sea wave hitting the back of the.
If you get a car pull out in front of you and you got a brake, the poor clutch is getting burnt out. You're doing this because the liquid in the tanker behind is pulling you backwards and forwards all the time. It takes quite a while to settle.
Yeah, so that's why you have to come up to a junction in a certain way. Yeah, so how could we then take off and the plane's going, sometimes it goes out at 45 degrees and goes out with its wing up in the air. How the hell could we do that with all that fuel in there?
Look at the size of a tanker at a petrol station, right? Now picture how much more of those you would need. Now, where's the space in the wings for that much fuel?
There isn't, because I did videos on it. There isn't. And do you know what? Then I thought, I even looked at the actual carcass of the thing, and it tells you what they put in there. There's no room in there either. And then what it was is Peter and Pete. I know you know them, don't you? You've talked about them. Peter and Pete, oh, they're really good. They're like scientists. Anyway, they were explaining that it's the auxiliary pack in the back of the plane is the engine. And then what it is when you take off, sometimes those compressors break and here it goes. Zoom, 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 zoom.
Yeah.
They return and come back to the airport. They don't carry on flying.
No.
On one, it's really important if anything goes wrong with one of them. But again, they made those things on the wings, whatever you want to call them, compressors, out of watching Schumacher, whatever his name was, Schumacher, through watching the birds. Is it Schumacher or Schuberger?
Schuberger.
Yeah.
Walter Schuberger.
Yeah. And the sad thing was, he said he didn't want to work with Hitler. He went home and a couple of days later he was found dead.
Oh, convenient. Don't they always?
Especially as he got into levitation and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll stop that one, James.
I've heard stories of these model Egyptian planes. Apparently the Egyptians always did scale models of everything, and they've had aeronautical experts look at these things, and they said they must have known about warm air currents and everything because of the shape of the wings. Apparently they will outfly a paper aeroplane, I don't know, I forget even what the figure is, maybe 10 times, 100 times. There's a lot more.
Well, do you know what I've thought? When you're watching, I think what it is the new planes, the new Airbuses are military. I'm not saying they're military planes, but they've used military technology. And when these things take off, they've just taken off and then they start turning, and then you start watching 4D flying. Those things are flying in 4D. And that's why, just above your head, they can be going shh. They've just taken off.
Well, bees work on.
They're at what literally would be called ground level doing that.
And I bet the sound from those aircraft is also, there's a sound vibration which is adding, that's maybe the fourth dimension aspect to it. You can levitate, you can find videos on YouTube, you can levitate rocks with sound. So it's all about frequency and vibration. And I'm sure if you could.
And electromagnetics.
Yeah. If you had the right frequency, you could bring towers down like 9/11. If you could get to the same frequency of the steel.
Like John Hutchinson effect.
Molecular structure of it could be distorted quite easily with a beam or something. The technology's there.
Well, I'm wondering myself, it was on a video, I don't know if you've seen it, but this guy, he's using a mirror, and when he puts them together, they all turn into demons and objects. But I think that when I put my camera, and I mentioned it on one of my videos, that as I was looking out, I've got a video on here I might be able to play you to show you what I mean in a minute. I might add it to this then, because I did make this video. Anyway, it just looked like the sky just looks like a barrage of things and little lights and faces and all sorts of things. Like that's the Matrix. It looked like it was whirring over the land, like a mist. And it isn't. It's them firing things at us. Frequencies probably. And the phone's picking up on it. That's the only thing I could think.
Well, they say we only see 1% of visible light between the infrared and the ultraviolet. So what about the other
Hey, very quick,
99%.
that as you said that leads me onto that horrible gun they can fire at your head to test your temperature at your pineal gland. You don't want one of those. No, you don't. And that's also that's another weird subject. Why would it? Oh, James is just showing me a picture of if you're going to wear a headdress, you do it properly. Yeah. Very good. You look good in pink there, James.
Thank you.
Where was that then?
That was round to friends for ceremonies and things. That's an interesting experience. When you see this reality, the only way I can describe it is that moment when you get that sort of champagne of lights from a firework. When you see trees and everything like that, and it's in like electrical water, this reality. It's pretty amazing, and you start thinking, this isn't what we're seeing.
I don't even know how we survive here, to be honest, because everything is electrical, and I know we've got electrical pulse in our brain and in our heart, but like, we're also humans. We've got warm blood, but we're living in somewhere we shouldn't be able to live, because the sun is electric, the trees are electric, the air is electric, the ground's electric, the storms are electric, thunder is electric.
Right in the centre of the heart is a tiny pinhole which apparently is such an intense heat. It's our own star, because the heart does a suction and compression. It isn't a pump, it's a regulator.
Yeah.
It's the cells and the blood that's moving, not the heart is just changing because there's no way the heart could pump all the way.
So how does someone get a clot then? It amazes me when people have clots.
It could be all sorts. I mean, it could be an air, like an air bubble.
Are you into the blood is plasma then? It's strange how when you look at it in your hand, it's blue, comes out red.
The veins are you've got the red and blue theme there, like hot and cold taps, water and fire.
I mean, if you put your hand on there, does my hand feel hot? No. No. Yeah, if I bled, I'd be hot.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
Is it when it hits? It's not hot inside us.
No, I don't think.
It's when it hits the air, it turns hot. Different reaction happening.
In a fully enclosed system, normally, isn't it? Unless the skin's torn, it's not going to come out. It's staying within the skin. So it doesn't have any contact with the outside temperature. I'd even say...
I've just thought differently about it. You know, I saw the videos where our heart isn't what they say it is.
Well, summertime, a lot of the time I can walk around in a leather jacket. And people will say to me, how can you wear that in this weather? It's so hot. And I drink hot drinks. Because I think it works the other way. If you eat...
Yeah, a hot drink when it's hot is quite refreshing.
Teas, you get something like, I can't think of the name of it now, there's a...
When I was cleaning, working, they say, what do you want to drink? A glass of water? I go, no, can I have a cup of tea?
Because you're raising the temperature of the organs, so it doesn't feel the contrast so greatly to the outside. So if you're drinking cold drinks and it's hot, the organs are going to send out a signal.
Retreat.
Well, it's going to say it's hot.
Yeah.
We need to sweat out. Then you dehydrate, so then you start a cycle, and then you feel thirsty. You need another drink, and then you're flushing your whole system in an endless trap. Whereas I find if you drink the hot drinks or room temperature is probably the ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something I've sort of.
Yeah.
Seems to work.
Well, we all think differently about the information that we did learn, and now and when you reprogram yourself, it's full of different information, isn't it?
This is it.
Thanks, James. Got to stop it. We have the lovely Amy with us now on my telephone. James is talking to Amy. Anyway, carry on now.
Okay. Yeah. So this whole thing that's going on, I was sent a video, and I thought it's a good point. Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920. There was also an economic crash, compulsory wearing of masks, and of course the vaccinations.
Oh well.
The world is a stage.
Yes, it's a stage.
You,
exactly what you're doing now.
You might know the answer to this. There's a character in the Bible in the New Testament called Simon, and I think he changes his name to something else.
Peter.
Yes. Right. Because Karen was just showing me some of these characters that morph, and I've noticed they've got the biblical names. You've got George Michael, Simon Cowell, and then what is a cowl? It's a covering. I'm sure they're just putting these names out there in plain sight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's fascinating. Yeah, that sounds right to me too.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Well, it's often mentioned as well about how Keanu Reeves is supposed to have this awakening after making the Matrix films, and Jim Carrey after the Truman Show. Well, what if it is a case of the penny would drop, so they keep all these things in-house and that they are playing multiple parts using computer CGI?
Right.
That would sort of make sense. I mean, there's even the possibility that all this is filmed somewhere quite remote and just giving the impression that one minute you're in the White House or the Kremlin or Buckingham Palace, and it's all background screens.
Oh, I know, I agree. Because when you see what they can do in the movies, we watch a movie, we know it's not true.
Do you know what? Something I found upsetting. Well, I was watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and it gets to the bit where the child catcher is capturing the children and putting them in the cage. And when I slowed the footage down, they were never in that footage. They were superimposed afterwards. They were glitching and nothing else was glitching, and I was like, what? So they were doing it in the 60s. So they've been doing this mind control for a long time.
Oh.
In fact, it's getting worse. It was supposed to be digital, and all they are is blurry now.
COVID cough.
Get away from me!
Well, like Martin has showed on Flat Earth British channel, when you and the likes of John Levo, when you look at the photography in 1830, it's like high definition.
Yeah, we said, didn't we?
I mean, we're talking like billowing smoke from a steam engine, so it's not something that can be frozen. That's going to be moving with the air. But by the time you get to the 1890s, the film quality has deteriorated. It's not gone the way it should have gone.
Do you know why that is then? I said that Queen Victoria was the last Tartarian, and when she sort of passed over her power in the 1840s. So there you go.
That would make sense.
Because we're in the new regime by then.
I've always thought if we go with the supposed chronology, are you telling me that it's taken nearly 2,000 years for the government of England and Wales to come up with the idea of doing a census on a population? Because wasn't that the whole...
Yeah, you said that before.
Story. So to me that sounds like you're doing a stock check. That's the whole purpose of a census.
Well, we have the census every 10 years.
Yeah.
This year is a census year.
Wow.
And I told my daughter we're not going to do it, and she said that she already sent it in. I said we won't participate in the census. I said, because 10 years ago I wasn't awake. This is 2020. I'm wide awake as I'm going to be, I think.
Yeah.
Hang on a sec.
And 2010 I didn't think about it, but I said, waking up this year, I told her, I said, well, we won't participate in the census. I don't like that, and we're not doing it. She said,
Amy's a little soldier, don't you worry, James. She's a little soldier now, aren't you, Amy?
Yeah.
No, a good soldier.
Yeah.
Amy's a spiritual soldier, aren't you, Amy?
This is it.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, spiritual.
I think...
Well, James is spiritual.
I was telling James about the video today. We've done a bit of videoing, with the Asperger's autism. That still really got me, that one. And also the Blade Runner one. Like, I never realised Harrison Ford was a Blade Runner. What was it? That's nearly 40 years later I've realised that. See what we're not getting? Sorry, Amy was, well, I just found that video with the smile and that on it when Amy and I watched that one together, and then I found the other one.
That's really interesting, that one.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's quite amazing, isn't it? It's so simple, really.
I'm making sure I smile consciously with both sides even.
I know you'll look at someone now and they're going,
Yeah.
You're going to say, oh, I know what you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I've said to Amy before that there has to be, that we're in some kind of spectrum, because so many people are asleep and little zombies, and some of us are awake. Well, some of us think we're awake, but a lot of us are more awake. And we can feel it and see it. And I said to Amy before, like, when we've, you were talking about 9/11, all that, 9/11 stuff, we can only look back on that and realise that it was not true afterwards, but we're in this and we know what's going on.
Well, at the time that happened, the first Monday afterwards, I went into work, and both myself and this other guy were ostracised because we dare to question. We said, "Hang on a minute, where's the link to Afghanistan with all this?" Because nobody had claimed responsibility, and all I did was question it, and then I get accused of being on the side of the terrorists.
Oh, that's terrible.
When I saw it happen on the television, I got called. I was painting a garage floor with tile paint, and I got called to, and I just thought, that's just like a controlled demolition, the way they bring down chimneys in the UK.
Well, yeah. So you knew right away
something just didn't add up.
Right.
Well, to be honest, I thought it was a psychological warfare with what better way of striking and giving the message, we can get to you. You might be militarily the strongest nation in the world, but we can still get to you by other means. But then, when you start hearing about and think about this realistically, you've got congested airspace. Are you going to tell me that there is no safety measures put in place if a plane was to suddenly change course?
Just on that day, Canada had airspace over America, and so it had to go to someone else before it came back. And then it was like the White House weren't following what they were following the week before, because the rules got changed again, and then it got put back afterwards. Not one person got fired or told off about all the mistakes that happened on that day.
Right.
And do you know what I think now? Because we can't say that. The footage of the coming down, I don't think that's real either.
No.
I think that the people that were there didn't see it the way that they're showing it to us.
None of it.
It looks like a film.
Right. None of it feels right about any of it.
And you know what? I slowed the footage down. That building, the first one that goes, no, the one with the tower, with the antenna on it, it creases from the top of the building, not from where supposedly that plane went in. It went from the top of the building. Crack. It's on Sun and Moon with the flames, and those flames have got faces in them. But it collapsed from the top.
It's
just like Building 7, but 7 buildings went that day. But we can't say that much because they like about it also.
I remember at the time a fireman saying the biggest thing they'd found was half a telephone keypad, and that in itself is strange. It's like, well, where's all the steel gone in that building? There's film footage showing, was it 41 internal spines and allowing for the swaying with. And
also, each tower was like 3 buildings put together. What I'm saying is, each section was reinforced. The middle bit was reinforced. It was extremely strong. So it was like they said, putting 3 buildings one on top of the other. So you had that, and it came down like that.
Right, it couldn't come down like that. That's right.
That's kind of rough.
And when I saw it on the TV, it was just so dramatic the way it all.
Yeah, we watched it again and again and again and again and again. And I just that's all I remember, because that's how they mind controlled us, isn't it?
Yep, the mind control. And then when the building collapsed, I didn't think about it, but then waking up this year, green at that point, and one side showed the Pentagon that got hit, and the other, and then I just watched the building go down, and the news guy, we were all watching it at the same time, and he's like, oh my gosh, what just happened there? And I was really frantic, and I said, I'm yelling at the TV, I said, the whole building just went down, and I was just really
I was
upset.
horrified because
Wow.
I'd been thinking of planes crashing, and I had to stop because I was going on holiday with my children, and I actually thought it was something to do with us. So I stopped thinking about it. And even though it didn't actually happen, my psyche was going planes, planes. I kept seeing two planes. So
Oh, I
it's just.
bet.
Yeah, but then I stopped.
Yeah.
I stopped thinking about it because I was getting on a plane. I was only back from my holiday a couple of days when it happened.
It was a terrible thing to do.
It was, but we can't say that much, can we?
Yeah, you can't say that much. But yeah, then but when I first, it took me a couple of years, but when I started reading some stuff about it, I could tell, it really happened.
Do you remember, Amy, I found that bit of clippage, which looks like a continuous frame, is cut in half and they've spliced it together. Do you remember that one I did? It was in that one with the fire and the faces. I couldn't believe it. It looks like one continuous shot, but it isn't. It's shots put together.
Oh, you mean the video you made about it?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I know.
Anyway, Amy, because we've been recording for a little bit, not that we're saying goodbye right now, but for the video here, can you say goodbye? Because I'm going to just turn it off.
Yes, okay. Well, goodbye then.
Yeah, I'll get me and James saying goodbye to each other before we go, but just for now, because James wants to eat his sandwich and he's got a camera on him. Yeah. So anyway, just for the video for the channel. Anyway, James, I just put the camera back on because I want James to say something.
The way I feel this works is the change in the wording. It says in Genesis, we were created in the image of God. Well, what if it's the imagination of God? The only nation being imagination and its states of mind. They put us into a state of fear. So we're not in a state of love. So we're operating in a fearful state. And then you'll see it with people as they become rich. They live in gated communities because they're fearful of someone stealing it. I mean, what a horrible way to live, to be in fear. And they've got their medium is the media. They're suggesting all these things because they're all negative. It's all to lower our vibration, I think. They don't talk about.
Do you remember the other James in New Zealand? Anxiety, they make money out of it. They want us in a state of anxiety, and often we think that what we're doing is we're talking wisdom, but we're not. We're just giving someone else our anxiety. It's really bad, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, any more James on that?
Well, I think it really does come down to in terms of energy. I mean, if you think in spiritual terms, it's all about being positive. Well, put it in energy terms, it's positive rather than minus or negative. I think it's the energy and the frequency of the heart. Whereas they're trying to get us to operate from the ego mind, and we're like personal. We think we're our opinions and our ideas, and that's sort of part of our personality.
Well, the other thing they've done is we live. Excuse me, I'm making a sandwich. We live in our we live out of our subconscious, even though we're living in what should be now.
The dream in the dreams.
Our thoughts, everything are in our subconscious, and if that's not right, then the rest isn't right.
Yeah. This is what these new thought writers like Neville Goddard were talking about, and he talks about when he's had people like Mrs. Roosevelt and Rockefellers. That's how they've made their money. They're doing exactly the same thing. It's all from imagination they're creating, but they haven't got an imagination. All they're doing is twisting something into something.
That's why I think, excuse me, the Mandela effect happens.
That's the glitches, I think.
Yeah, the glitches, yes.
There's something where we're not jumping with the realities.
Yeah.
Well,
I've always noticed that, yes.
Really,
glitch in the matrix.
It comes down to outside of yourself. Can you be 100% sure of anything?
No.
Right.
I mean, I see it that we are all the creator in individual forms as co-creators going through an experience. So you can't see the creator as a whole, but you can see
Right.
in many manifestations.
Yes.
And it's all experiences, which then also changes the whole dynamics of what is good and what is bad as well, in a way.
Right.
It seems in a way like a problem solving game, really, like a detective trying to find the best way of doing things with given every opportunity. But I think we've got basically an unlimited ticket in this fun fair, and you can just keep going around as many times as you want, no matter what you do. And if you want to experience being, I don't know, run over by a car, you can feel that.
Here is what you want it to be, I think. You know, if you believe it's whatever it is, it is.
Well, I think that's why they get us to feel fear, because if we then feel fear, we manifest it. So,
exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. And then you manifest, just like my family on Facebook. My sister, I unfriended them, but my sister told me she's still friends with them on Facebook. She said the one lady said, well, she just came out and admitted she's terrified to catch this virus and she doesn't want to die of this virus. I said, well, we're all going to die of something. I said, and you can't be afraid to die, because then you're never going to live. We're all going to die, but you know, we all have our belief of what happens after. I believe in you know, heaven as a Christian. I believe that, you know, we'll go, or some people believe in you know, reincarnation, but you can't be afraid to die, whatever that is. When our body dies, I believe our spirit goes on and go to a good place, you know.
Yours will, Amy.
But that's my
She didn't hear me. I said yours will, Amy. Amy, yours will go to a good place because you're such a good person.
I think, you know, I like to think everybody is a loving God that understands and everything, that, you know, we're going to go and be with him in a wonderful place when we...
I'm not sure if this is hell here or purgatory or something.
It feels like hell, or at
Yeah.
least purgatory. And the Catholic Church teaches about purgatory. Many times in my life I've said I think we're...
James feels like that. He's got a camera pointing at his plate. Oh, he can't really eat now because he's got a camera pointing. Amy, I'm just going to finish this little video so James can eat.
I'm sure, yes.
I just put the camera back. James is talking. I just want to capture it. Sorry, we're supposed to be eating, but go on, James.
well, you got a lot of writers. They will use a first name. There are a few that use initials, but when you think J.K. Rowling, well, what's Rowling? Well, in Greek there is no J and K. Is it some little coded reference even in that? Certainly within in the story in Harry Potter.
J.K.
Yeah, J and K doesn't exist in the Greek alphabet.
Yeah.
And I think what they've done by changing the vowel sounds, they're changing the vibration that because when we speak, you're hearing a vibration that the brain then decodes into words.
Right.
The one that appears in Greek is the joined A and E.
Okay. Right.
Well, you've got that. If you're not diseased, you're eased. So you've got the E and A in that. You can spell C with SEA. You can breathe, which is E and A. You can feel, which you could spell. It seems to be a reference to the creator.
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant.
It's also changed into the final silent letter, the 27th letter of the alphabet, the ampersand. And even that, amp is power, and amp is sand. Is it a reference to something? Amp, eye, sound, the third eye. I think there's clues. I think there's clues in all these things. They all seem to. The words I think are the worst examples, because I mean we can all say and describe, say for example, love, but how it feels to you, you can't actually show anybody. You can't implant that feeling and say, well, this is how it feels. Everybody's got their own interpretation of different states of mind, as it were. So
exactly. That's right. Well, in the English language, like I think other languages have more words to describe. Like we have love. We say I love. You can say I love pizza. I love that man. I love, and we use love for everything. But like other languages have a word, a specific word for love that's a romantic love, or a specific word that's just love. Anything like we're very generalized in English.
They spent a long time changing our language, though, haven't they?
Well, the thing I also question is, if it's proven that children learn languages earlier, why is it in the UK we're not taught either French or German until later on in our education, and why is English pushed so much as the universal language around the world?
No, it's such a tiny place. We're one of the smaller, supposedly one of the smaller countries, and yet our language is universal. Well, I suppose America talks it, and New Zealand and Australia talk it. Canada talks it, I suppose.
But then it comes.
But then that comes from us.
How much can we believe about the history of the British Empire?
Yeah, especially Amy. I've made another video about the Barbary ships. It seems that when it was happening, the other countries got insurance policies, and then they took out insurance policies, and then the Barbary ships didn't take their people. But come the Day of Independence, that's changed everything, and then they went to war a lot after that, trying to get because obviously there's no insurance now, so the Barbary people could take who they wanted. I thought at a time when we're supposed to be running the world, but the world is running us.
That's right.
What? Anyway, we're just going back. Amy, you've got to say goodbye again, because James he hasn't eaten his sandwich yet. Well, I've decided to ring Marilyn up. Hi, Marilyn.
Hello, Karen, Jane.
Yeah, she's come in to talk to James a little bit. So yeah, James went to help someone today, and then we've been sitting here. We've met Floss. Don't start. We've been making a few little videos talking about things.
Yeah, this whole thing with the system, the way I think it works is you'll get somebody who gets the highest rate benefits, disability benefits, and a prime position property. They're sort of bought off, they report other people. You've got organisations like the British Legion, the Round Table. I mean, the Round Table is a King Arthur reference straight away. And it's like a filtering system with a school, where pick out the ones that are smart, like George Carling said. We want people smart enough to operate the machines, but not smart enough to work out what's going on. And you'll see this pattern. Anybody that does come up with a way of developing a car that runs on water or something that mysteriously dies, the rest of them seem to be bought off in the system. And this whole system seems to work on people reporting each other. That's their version of the all-seeing eye, using people's greed against each other, because it's always divide and conquer, isn't it? Everything is divide and conquer. Whether it be politics, religion, science, you name it, it's always pick a side. Right from school.
The Old Boys Network.
Yeah, right from school, from primary school. Oh, it's sports day. You're in the red team. You're in the blue team.
Everything's to make division, isn't it? It's not to make us all to come together. It's all about dividing.
Well, look at the way they've done the sex thing. The impression we get of the Victorian age, women had no rights. Then it sort of carried on where, well, basically legally, sort of the man owned the woman, from the way it reads in the wills, and looking at the legislation in the 19th century. And now it's flipped over completely the other way, and you've now got young men walking around that need bras because they've had chicken breasts from KFC. It's the growth hormones they pump into all this shit they call food.
Yeah, do you think it's all going to change Nazara and Gazara, Jane?
I think what we're actually being shown all the time, because they seem to work on mirrors. When we had a food shortage, they had a shortage of adrenochrome. I think they're in turmoil, and I think they're like the way I described it. It's the grand finale of a travelling fun fair, and they're giving us everything all at once. The maximum amount of confusion.
So many things going on
Yeah.
today, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, you've got.
There's all the speculation. You had that Trump's announcement of the 6th military space force, which has all gone quiet. So there's always speculation.
Yeah, because they're into cognitive engineering. If everybody woke up and realised what that was, it's about mind control.
Well, look at the sort of cartoon image in the film Paul. I mean, if you say the word alien, they automatically think of these 3-foot high greys with the big heads and no noses and no mouths. It's implanted in people's subconscious from sci-fi. So
they made a lot of sci-fi films in the 60s. I mean, they not have been very good, but they did. And they even made one where, they thought, well, something came through on the television, didn't it? We're at war and all that, and everybody believed it.
Well, they didn't have problems with. I think people took it seriously with the H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds on the radio originally.
And do you know where that stemmed from? That train in Brighton, that electric train. They made drawings out of that train and used it in War of the Worlds.
Oh, right.
That's just like, what? I think history is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. What's it kills the Martians off? It's a virus, isn't it?
Oh yes, the famous virus.
Well, the only virus is the information that's gone viral with that lockdown. That's the real virus.
Yeah, I think that's the lockdown is the virus.
Well, they know what time you're there. It's instant. This is another aspect of it. The assault on small independent businesses as well.
Apparently, we all thought this 5G.
Yeah.
It brings a new wavelength to do with Tesla frequency.
Yeah.
How true that is, I don't know. It's like everything. Is it another distraction? Is it the truth?
I've seen seagulls sitting on LED lights.
And we're due for this good reset.
It's strange because I've seen pigeons and seagulls sitting on these new LED street lamps, but it's funny how they don't sit on churches. I still think they are commissioned in the sense of collecting atmospheric energy, regardless of whether they're actually doing religious ceremonies in these things. I think these buildings still work.
I found that day, which I didn't know, that churches back in the day were healing.
Yeah.
Places.
They were looking at the stars as well.
Well, you look at what you've got in a church. You've got an organ with windpipes. We've got one windpipe and lots of organs. The baptism is something to do with water healing. The position and location of churches, where I've looked at them, they're always near water.
What surprised me though, this climate we're living in, James and Karen, is that you don't hear the church leaders speaking out, defending their churchgoers on what's happening.
Yeah, it's funny.
I said in one comment they should grow some.
Well, they're often quoting fear no evil, walk through this valley of shadows. They were the first to lock the doors. It's like, well, where's the fear no evil now? But I mean, look at that. The war on terror, spelt TERRA, as in the earth, has gone from this invisible terrorist group to now it's a germ or a virus that you can't see. So you can chase this thing forever now. They can spin this one out as long as they want.
Which isn't a good thing.
Someone told me today you need to go to the march on August the 29th. I said, why? He said it's going to all be changing pretty soon. I said, but on the other hand, if it's more people standing up, letting them know that we're not going to stand for this. That's my take on it.
The only
Rather
problem
than
is
be the silent majority and leave it to others to do.
the problem is with the
apparently there's 10,000 people went out the other week. Whether that's true, but
well, the media won't show it anything that will.
Yeah, no, I don't think they. Because I don't watch television. So.
Well, people are sheep, and if they think they're on the losing side, they jump ship very easily. So the media are not going to show any large gatherings of people protesting on anything. The BBC have done it with the nurses. They showed a tiny section, but if they'd have panned the camera around, there was a lot more. The BBC are renowned for giving false impressions of anything. You only got to look at their sculptures on their headquarters buildings, and it's a corporation. It's media, it's scripted, it's news, it's north, east, west and south. It's getting you to look anywhere except inside yourself. It's getting you to look everywhere outside.
That's true, James.
Well, if it's a religion, everybody's looking up at the sky for something. If it's, I don't know.
They're doing enough to make sure that we don't.
Well, they know what time you're there. It's instant. This is another aspect of it. The assault on small independent businesses as well.
Apparently, we all thought this 5G.
Yeah.
It brings a new wavelength.
There you are, me and James. James, his journey is nearly over visiting me, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's going to go back on the road now. He's got about 3-4 hour journey.
3 hour drive, I think. But it doesn't help with the M4 being where they're widening it. It's down to 50 mile an hour from Reading.
It's a bit dark. I'm going to have to brighten this up, this video. But it's been a real pleasure meeting you, James. You've had a really great chat with me.
Yeah.
He's talked to Amy and Marilyn.
Yeah. All been
And
very
me.
good. Yes. All been wonderful.
Anyway, yeah, it's been nice meeting you, James.
It's been a fantastic year actually meeting people that I've spoke to or have conversations with on Facebook and YouTube, and it's all good.
That's good then, isn't it? Anyway, it's been a joy meeting you. Thank you very much for popping in to see me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Been lovely